Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. One of our channel members asked me to take a look at these two videos put out by a channel called Echo Electric. It's a small channel that does some Aptera content once in a while. And they recently put out two videos called Aptera May Be Doomed, kind of talking about some of the challenges that Aptera faces as a business and as a product. And he asked me to give my thoughts on it. So I thought it'd make a fairly interesting video. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on these two things. It's a well put together video, well scripted, and he notes basically six things that are a problem, or in his mind is a problem. Number one is this niche design and market acceptance. And basically, he's saying that Aptera looks unusual and has a very niche market, and there may not be enough volume for Aptera to be a successful company. So that is, I 100% agree with that. It is going to be, in my opinion, I believe it is a very niche product. If you look at Aptera's website, they seem to think that the potential market is up to 600,000 units per year. That seems wildly optimistic. So they're saying like there's 140,000 two passenger vehicles sold per year, and then there's 140,000 people that buy efficient vehicles, and then 120,000 people that buy motorcycles and three-wheelers, and then 120,000 people that are environmental advocates, and 80,000 people that are energy saving advocates. I have no idea where they're getting these numbers from, really. Like, I just looked up sales of motorcycles, and in America, sales of motorcycles are actually 500,000 units. And I'm not sure where they're getting this environmental advocates number or this energy saving advocates numbers. Like, I have no clue where these numbers are from. I'm guessing that this is a true number for the total number of two passenger cars sold per year. It sort of makes sense. And then efficient commuters, I don't know if they're like counting Priuses and other hybrids as efficient commuters or anything that above a certain mile per gallon. However, I think that the chances that Aptera sells 600,000 units a year is pretty unrealistic. It is a very unusual looking vehicle, and people are going to either love it like we do or hate it. And I have shown this to a lot of my friends, and most of them are like, I would not be caught dead in that thing. And they also feel like it's unsafe, and they feel like it's too small, this, that, and the other. There's many reasons that people won't buy it. And one of the major reasons is that it is a two-passenger vehicle. And he talks about how, in the next thing, about practicality, and we'll just kind of go into that. But I just wanted to pull up two vehicles that I think are somewhat similar to Aptera. Now, people are going to buy Aptera for many different reasons. And but one of the things you can't get around is that it is a two-passenger vehicle. If you need more than two passengers, it's not the right vehicle for you. Now, most two-passenger vehicles currently sold in America are sports cars, and most of these sports cars have almost no storage capacity or trunk space. The most popular two-seater in America is the Mazda Miata, and it sells roughly about 10,000 units a year. And then the prototypical high efficiency vehicle in the United States is the Prius, and the Prius used to sell like up to a 250,000 units a year, and it now sells. Okay, you got to discount these numbers because these are post-COVID numbers, but before COVID, they were selling about 70 to 80,000 units a year. So I think this is just my best guess. Best case scenario, Aptera sells Prius numbers, which would be amazing. 70 to 80 to maybe even 100,000 units a year. That would be really, really good. I think realistically, maybe you're looking at Mazda Miata numbers, about 10,000 a year. And I think with 10,000 a year, that is a viable business. But yeah, it is a niche market, and I think that is absolutely true. And I don't think that Aptera is going to become it's not going to sell like F-150 or even Toyota Camry type numbers. Okay, then he talks about limited range and practicality. The limited range didn't really make sense to me because Aptera has some of the highest range. Now he's was he thought that the smaller battery that's used because Aptera is so efficient would lead to less climbing ability and less performance. Maybe doesn't understand that Aptera is very, very light as well. And so it won't affect those things. Now, what the small battery and the efficiency of the vehicle does affect is other loads not related to driving will make a bigger impact on range. For example, because the car is so efficient and uses a smaller battery to go a longer distance, things like heating the car, which would be only a relatively small percentage of something with a giant battery and a very inefficient drivetrain. I'm going to bring out the Hummer EV as an example. Like heating the cabin of that vehicle is going to make not that much of a difference because the drivetrain itself and the weight of the vehicle makes that thing so inefficient. It needs a giant battery to go the range that it's predicted. So heating it won't make a big difference. Heating the cabin in an Aptera is going to make a relatively larger difference in range. However, range of the Aptera is very, very good. If you look at the currently available full electric vehicles, the Launch Edition Aptera has 400-mile range, which is about 643 kilometers. That would put it right underneath the Lucid Air. So that would be right very near the top of all currently available EV ranges. And then even the 250-mile variant, which would be about 400 kilometers, would be higher than the average. The average, this little black line, is about 355. But the lowest range Aptera would be in the 400 range right here, which would be well above average. And then, of course, we're not even talking about the 600 and 1,000 mile range. Those would be way off the charts here, like way near the top. And performance will be good. Now, practicality, one of the major things he says is like, if you want it as a family car, some families may not opt to get it. And 100% true. This is not a family car. If you need a family car to haul your children and your children's friends around, this is not it. You need to get a minivan, basically. This is a very good second car for a family. So sometimes, most families have two vehicles. Some families have three. And there's usually, you can have one vehicle that's the family vehicle. That the parent that takes care of the kids most of the time drives around, and then there's the other vehicle that the parent that is going to work and using it as a work commuter basically drives by him or herself most of the time. And Aptera would be a very good second vehicle for a family, but it's not a family vehicle. So, and I think that is probably going to be one of the major limitations. Like if a family is a one vehicle family, the Aptera is not going to be the one vehicle that works for a family. Now, in terms of practicality, in terms of cargo space, it's pretty good. If you look at this ranking of EVs with the boot space, cargo space, obviously like vans and trucks are going to have large boot space, but when you this is a van, this truck, this is a station wagon. And then this is the reboot of the Volkswagen minivan. Then you get down to here, and we're getting into the Model X, which is and Model Y, which are small SUVs. And then Aptera is about 25 square feet of cargo space. And you saw in the videos how much you can put like surfboards, or you can put a ton of stuff in there. It's actually a very practical vehicle for a single person that has a lot of hobbies, and also for small businesses that if you need to travel a lot and you need to carry a lot of stuff for your small business and you work by yourself, I think it would be a very good vehicle for that. And also would be a very good fleet vehicle because of low costs of fuel and low cost of ownership, basically. Okay, competitive landscape. This is where he talks about how there's established players and Aptera is a new player, and people may not be interested in a new player, and that's absolutely correct. But as Rivian has shown, you can break into established markets, and Tesla is now an established company, but when they were new, they broke into established markets. So if you have a compelling product, I don't think that is as big a problem. The other thing that they talked about is technological and manufacturing challenges. Now, this is a legitimate thing that is an issue. Aptera is trying to do many things that are very new and very different than conventional manufacturing of these vehicles. Number one, they're trying to do a carbon fiber composite shell that is also the structural unit of the vehicle as well as the outer body of the vehicle. That really hasn't been done in a commercial passenger vehicle before. So that's a kind of a new thing. And then the hub motors, that is also a completely new thing. And then the skin cooling is also a completely new thing. So there's three things about it that are somewhat unprecedented. And they're a company that's not trying to do just one new thing, but they're trying to do three new things. And that is extremely challenging. And that takes a lot of engineering. And it seems like they have figured out those problems, that they're partnering with CPC and doing a good job with them. And CPC is very well versed in making these composite structures. And so I think that they've got that under control. They've partnered with Alafe, who is, basically the leader in these in-wheel motors. And they're partnering with them on that. And the skin cooling is the one thing that seemingly that they are doing on their own. And we do need to see kind of a proof of concept on that. I believe Noir, the Alpha Noir, had skin cooling, and that had a functional skin cooling. They did drag races with that thing. The Beta vehicle that is being shown here did not have skin cooling. It actually had a true radiator in the front. And the Gamma has skin cooling, but remember, they didn't hook it up to the motor, so the motor's overheated when going up the hill. Now, they are making plans to hook it up to the motor and making videos and showing that it's going, up mountains and stuff like that. So that it remains to be proven publicly, but privately they've said that there's no problem with the skin cooling, but they do need to show proof of that. All right, the number 5 is evolving customer preferences. This is kind of a rehash of the first two things about practicality and niche market and stuff, and that's absolutely true. If you want a giant honking vehicle, this is not the thing. If you need to haul 5 people, this is not the thing. There is a niche market, and I think different people want the Aptera for different things. Some people want it because it's efficient. Some people want it because it looks different and cool. Some people want it because it's cheap and cost of ownership. Some people like it because they can be off the grid and be independent of the grid and not have to depend on others for fuel. Other people like the design of it and the technology of it and all the new things that they're trying. Some people want it because as a fleet vehicle, it would be cheap to maintain, and because it looks unique, it can act as an advertisement for your business. So there's many different people want it for different reasons. I think that the reason I want it is totally different than the reason that many of you guys want it, but there's enough people that will want it, and it does not have to be the best-selling vehicle or even an average-selling vehicle. They can be a very niche vehicle and still be a successful business. And I think that they can do that. And like I said, I think that my personal opinion is they will be able to sell like Mazda Miata numbers of 10,000 a year. And if they're wildly successful, they may get Toyota Prius numbers, which is 100,000 units a year, which would be really, really amazing. And then the last thing they talk about is the finance problem. And I think this is probably the biggest hurdle that Aptera has. It's not the technology problem. It's not the market issues. It's the problem that every single startup has, is that startups bleed money until they get into production and they start generating revenue. But there's a long period when they're doing development and marketing that they're just bleeding money. And that's what Aptera is doing. They're just bleeding money, and they're working on investments just like every other startup. And if they burn through money faster than they can raise it, and they run out of money before they can get to the revenue generating stage, they will be dead in the water, just like Sono Motors and possibly Canoe and lots of other startup EV companies. They're just they're gonna, if you run out of money, you're you're in trouble. And that's why Aptera, is very focused on trying to raise money to because without money they die, and they just need to get enough money to get into production as fast as possible. And I've talked to several people at Aptera. Their number one priority is getting to production, because they realize they don't get into production and they don't start generating revenue, they are going to die. And so they need to do that. And so the finance part of the whole thing is the part of the those videos that I found that I agree with the most. That is Aptera's biggest hurdle. And without good fundraising, Aptera will be doomed. Now the issue is that they've been saying that they've been looking for enough money, which is about $50 million, to make it into production for well over a year now, and we still have not heard of any large investment that gets us to production. Last we had someone interview people just a few months ago at Aptera saying, do we have enough money for production? And they said they still don't have enough money for production. They have enough money to keep going and keep doing the engineering, and there's still engineering that can constantly be done before they go into production. And that's what the accelerator has done. The accelerator program has been very successful for them and has given them a long runway. So they're not in any business of running out of funds to stay solvent. But they currently don't have the money to go into production. And as I've said several times, I think their best chance of going into production is this ATVM loan. And that's probably their best chance at getting the funding necessary. I hope that they come up with some big funders soon, but I know that they've been looking. Whenever I've talked to them and whenever they've been asked, they say that there's been a lot of interest. Lots of people are receiving the pitch very well, but as it seems so far, it seems like no one's really pulled out the checkbook and written them the large check that they need. So yes, the finance aspect of it is going to be the biggest problem for Aptera. And we all need to hope that they get the ATVM loan, or they get several large investors or a single large investor that can put down the money that allows them to build at scale. Because the way that they've gone, they've made choices not to build vehicles one at a time, but I think they're trying to build thousands of vehicles at a time. So they need to make an order for thousands of parts, and in order to get their suppliers to do these things, they need to give them a lot of money up front to do the tooling to generate the specific parts for them. And that just takes a lot of money. There's just no way around it. Aptera has so far raised about 90 million, and Rivian and Lucid, they raised over $2 billion before they got into production. So I know auto cycles and cars are two different things, but the gap between $90 million and $2 billion is a large gap in funding. And so Aptera probably needs to raise another $50 to $100 million before they can get into production. And that is their biggest problem. And I think everyone understands that. All right. So those are my thoughts on this Aptera May Be Doomed video series by Echo Electric. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys.